Welcome to the deep dive.
Hmm.
We are jumping right into some really fascinating material today.
Yeah, lots to cover. Glad to be here.
So we always start with this universally understood given, right? The caregiver's oath, the physician's oath.
Right, the absolute commitment to the patient.
Exactly. It's this sworn commitment where the patient is prioritized above absolutely everything else. We expect it, society demands it, and, it's beautiful. But today's deep dive is asking a question that honestly feels pretty revolutionary.
It really does.
We're asking, what about the oath for the caregiver?
Right, what about their protection?
Yeah, because we're looking at this amazing stack of sources today. We've got academic white papers, business strategy outlines for the Attard methodology, curriculum frameworks, and even like software training guides from eMoney.
It's a very comprehensive stack.
And the mission of this deep dive, the whole point, is to map out a clear, exciting road for caregivers, a road that actually starts way earlier than you might think.
Right.
We are talking about from birth, from youth, preparing these individuals to pay themselves first and care for themselves first.
Which is a complete paradigm shift for the medical field.
Totally. Because the ultimate vision here is that when a clinician is, say, standing in an operating room, right, they're performing a complex cesarean section, high stakes. In that exact moment, they should possess this absolute unshakable confidence that their own life, their family's financial estate, and their purpose are stable, strong, and growing.
Yeah, and that's just not the reality for most right now. The current culture, it relies entirely on reactive survival.
Right.
We really need to shift that to a proactive, structured preparation. It's about moving the timeline way up.
Okay, so let's unpack this, because the sources paint this incredibly vivid picture of the current clinical reality.
Yeah.
Imagine you're a nurse in a neonatal intensive care unit.
Oh, man. High stress.
Unbelievable stress.
Yeah.
And the newborn you were caring for suddenly becomes apneic. They just stop breathing.
Terrifying.
And in that exact same moment, literally across the room, the mother begins to hemorrhage. So it is a massive dual crisis scenario. Seconds dictate survival.
Right.
But in that room, there is zero hesitation from the caregiver. Zero. There's only decisive action, immense real-time risk management, and just total clinical command. They stabilize the unstable. They save 2 lives.
Which is incredible.
It is.
Yeah.
But then, and this is the wild part, the crisis ends. They finish their charting, they take the next patient, and eventually their shift is just over. They go home.
Yeah, it's a jarring transition, to go from standing between life and death to, well, just sitting in traffic.
Right. Listening to the radio.
Exactly. And you're just expected to function like everything is completely normal.
It feels like we've built this incredibly advanced, high-tech hospital right on top of a major fault line, but we, entirely forgot to earthquake-proof the foundation.
Yeah.
Why do we keep treating caregivers like they're just an infinite resource?
Well, what's fascinating here, and the sources really dig into this, is that the structural deficiency is baked right into the culture of medical training from day one.
How so?
Think about it. Clinicians are rigorously trained to identify and mitigate patient risk in real time. If a patient's blood pressure drops, there's a strict protocol, right?
Oh, absolutely. Algorithms for everything.
Right, but they completely lack equivalent frameworks for their own personal risk. Mentorship in healthcare, it almost always ends at clinical competency.
So the senior doctors teach the junior doctors how to do the surgery.
Yes.
But nobody sits them down and says, hey, here is how you prevent a massive lawsuit from destroying your marriage.
Precisely. It rarely touches on life planning or generational wealth or, long-term career sustainability.
Yeah.
And that leads to this central mantra found throughout the Attard methodology frameworks we're looking at.
Oh, I love this quote.
Yeah, it's powerful. Production without protection is exposure.
Production without protection is exposure.
That is so good. It really is. The system demands absolute excellence, but it just fails to provide structured recovery. There's no formalized decompression after a severe clinical event.
Right.
And on the financial side, there is this glaring lack of literacy regarding income protection or legacy plans.
Wait, let me play devil's advocate for a second. We're talking about literal brain surgeons here. These are some of the most highly intelligent, capable people on the planet.
Absolutely.
So why do we assume they can't figure out a basic budget or a retirement account? Surely they can handle it.
Because intelligence is not a substitute for structure. That's the key.
Okay, fair.
The skills required to map the human genome or do vascular surgery, they don't automatically translate to understanding the tax code or asset protection laws.
Right.
The caregiver literally is the system right now, and the system is actively depleting them because they are operating completely without a safety net.
So if raw intelligence isn't the deciding factor between a caregiver who thrives and one who faces total ruin, what is? Because the data in our sources presents this incredible contrast.
It's timing and structure. The difference between financial ruin and generational stability isn't being smarter, it's having a plan early.
Let's talk about the curriculum frameworks, because they illustrate this beautifully with these side-by-side case studies.
Yeah, the two paths scenarios.
Right. Two paths, same starting point, different outcomes. It strips away all the emotion and just looks at the mechanics of preparation. I want to walk through these because they make this very abstract concept terrifyingly real for anyone listening.
Let's do it.
Okay, scenario one, the medical student accident. So in this scenario, we have a 27-year-old MS3. That's a third-year medical student, right?
Correct.
So they have all the debt in the world, but they're making absolutely $0.
Yeah, a lot of debt. In this case, $280,000 in student loans.
Okay, so let's look at the unprotected path first. This student has no disability insurance, no emergency fund. They get into a motor vehicle accident on the way to the hospital and suffer a severe orthopedic injury.
Which means they can't complete their clinical rotations for, say, 12 to 18 months.
And that is a very real thing that could happen to literally anyone listening right now.
Absolutely. It happens all the time. Yeah. And on the unprotected path, the result is just total financial collapse. They lose their training continuity.
Right.
But the mechanism that really destroys them here is the interest. The interest on that $280,000 loan continues to compound while they are literally lying in a hospital bed.
Oh man, that exponential risk.
Yeah. They have no income replacement, which means their aging parents or maybe a spouse suddenly has to become financially responsible for them. The psychological stress and identity disruption are just severe.
But then we look at the exact same scenario on the protected path. Same 27-year-old student, same mountain of debt, same car accident, same injury.
Right, but totally different outcome.
Because this student started their structural planning early. They secured disability insurance and built a basic emergency fund. But wait, I have to admit some confusion here. How does a student with zero income even get income protection? I thought disability insurance only replaced a salary you already have.
It's a great question, and honestly, it's a massive blind spot for most medical professionals. The industry actually offers specialized disability policies specifically for medical students and residents.
Really? Based on what?
Based on their projected future income as a physician.
Ah, so you are insuring the asset that is your future earning potential before you even fully realize it.
Exactly, and if we connect this to the bigger picture, watch how the outcome changes completely. The event is identical, right? The car crash still happens.
Right.
But the disability insurance activates to provide liquidity. The educational path is preserved. It's delayed, obviously, but it is not derailed.
The family isn't drained trying to save them.
Exactly. And medically speaking, the radically reduced stress actually improved their physical recovery trajectory. The data in the sources refers to this outcome as a managed interruption rather than a crisis.
A managed interruption. That is such a powerful reframe. It takes the panic completely out of the equation.
It does. It changes the whole narrative.
And this concept applies to the next phase of their career, too. Let's look at scenario 2, the malpractice lawsuit. Here we are looking at a PGY2, so a second-year resident.
Right. So on the unprotected path, we have this resident with minimal financial literacy and absolutely no asset protection strategy in place. And they are named in a malpractice lawsuit.
Which happens to everyone eventually.
Oh, yeah. And it's crucial to note that this happens regardless of the actual merit of the suit. You can do everything perfectly and still be named.
Just getting that legal document handed to you is enough to trigger a massive cortisol spike. It's an attack on your competence, your identity.
And it really is. And because they lack a structural foundation, this event causes severe emotional distress, insomnia, anxiety. They experience total financial confusion.
Because they don't know what's exposed.
Right. Could they lose their future home, their savings? They literally don't know. And all of this psychological strain bleeds into their professional performance.
Which is the most dangerous part.
Exactly. It leads to poor clinical decision-making under pressure because their mind is just completely elsewhere.
But the protected path tells a wildly different story. Here, you have an early attending physician who took action from the very beginning. They initiated a Roth IRA during their training, secured life and disability insurance early, and they fully understand their employer's 401k structure.
Let's break down why that specific early action matters so much. A resident making roughly $60,000 is in the lowest tax bracket they will likely ever see in their professional life.
Right, because soon they'll be making attending money.
Exactly. So utilizing a Roth IRA where you pay taxes on the money now and it grows completely tax-free forever is a mathematically brilliant move before their income skyrockets to $300,000 or $400,000.
So they have locked in this massive long-term advantage. But how does that actually help them when they get handed a lawsuit?
Because that structure neutralizes the panic. When the lawsuit happens, the financial and emotional preparedness coexist. The physician knows exactly what assets are shielded.
Oh, the unknown is gone.
Right. They understand that legal exposure is simply an accepted professional reality. It's a hazard of the job, like a firefighter facing smoke, rather than a financial death sentence.
That makes total sense.
Their long-term wealth trajectory is already established and protected. That gives them the emotional bandwidth to handle the professional challenge without it destroying their personal peace.
There is a quote we found in one of the presentation decks that just perfectly encapsulates this. I want you listening to really hear this, because this is the crux of the whole deep dive. Your career will save lives. Your plan will save your future.
It's a striking statement.
It really is. It places equal weight on their professional duty and their personal sustainability. It tells the caregiver that their own future is actually worth saving too.
Which brings us to the how, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if a clinician is listening to this right now, whether you are a first-year medical student or a 10-year attending, and you say, okay, I buy it, I need structure, but how do I actually build it? That brings us directly to the Attard methodology.
Yes, the methodology is key here.
It's this very specific executive architecture that breaks this down into 4 distinct, highly actionable phases.
It is a holistic, process-oriented approach. Phase 1 is stabilization, and Phase 2 is structural financial security.
Okay, so the foundation.
Right. The methodology absolutely insists on a risk-first approach. You have to protect the downside before you can even think about accelerating the upside.
So what does that look like practically?
It means establishing a 3 to 12-month emergency reserve. It involves a rigorous disability coverage analysis to ensure the household income is actually protected, not just, partially covered. And it covers debt prioritization.
I have to play devil's advocate again, though.
Oh, for it.
Asking a resident who is running on black coffee, working 80-hour weeks and barely sleeping to prioritize structural financial security feels a bit like asking a drowning person to build a boat. How is Phase 1 even functionally possible for them?
It is a totally valid pushback. But the reality is, Phase 1 isn't about asking them to instantly generate a massive surplus of cash. They don't have it.
Right.
It is about auditing and directing whatever small resources they do have with absolute precision. It is about securing that student disability policy we talked about, which is highly affordable.
So it's more about efficiency than volume.
Exactly. It is about making sure they aren't paying the wrong type of interest on their debt. It's building that earthquake-proof foundation. You don't look at complex investments until you know a broken arm won't bankrupt your family.
And that makes sense.
Once that floor is locked in, then you move to Phase 3, growth architecture, and Phase 4, leadership and legacy.
Which is where you finally get to go on the offensive.
Correct. Phase 3 focuses on disciplined investment principles, understanding market cycle awareness, and behaviorally realistic implementation. It uses strategies like tax loss harvesting to mathematically reduce lifetime taxes.
Wait, pause right there. I hear tax loss harvesting thrown around a lot by finance bros on the internet, but what does that actually mean for a doctor who's working back-to-back shifts? Explain it to me like I'm 5.
Absolutely. Let's say you own 2 investments. One has gone up in value and one has gone down. If you sell the one that went up, you owe the government capital gains taxes on your profit.
Right. Uncle Sam always gets his cut.
Always.
Yeah.
But tax loss harvesting is simply the strategy of deliberately selling the investment that went down at the exact same time. You capture that loss on paper and you use it to cancel out the taxes you owe on your gains.
Oh, the offset.
Exactly. You then immediately buy back a similar asset so your money stays invested. Over a 30-year career, proactively harvesting those losses can save a physician literally hundreds of thousands of dollars in taxes.
That is incredible. And that perfectly sets up Phase 4, which elevates the plan even further, right?
It does. Phase 4 looks at practice ownership considerations, business valuation awareness, philanthropic alignment, and legacy transfer. It's about ensuring the wealth and the values are passed on to the next generation with minimal friction.
Minimal friction is the dream.
But the methodology anticipates another major objection here. A doctor might look at all these phases, all this complex tax strategy, and say, I'm smart. I can just do this myself with a spreadsheet. Why do I need to pay an advisor or an institution to build this structure?
Right, the classic, I can do the math argument. Doctors love doing the math.
They do. And the framework acknowledges that self-planning can work in theory. The math isn't magic. However, the methodology is designed to prevent what they call behavioral leakage.
Behavioral leakage. That is a fascinating term. How does that work in practice?
Imagine a physician working a brutal 14-hour shift. They sit down in the break room at 3 a.m., totally exhausted, and they look at their phone. The stock market just dropped 20%.
Oh no, the doom scroll.
Right. Fear takes over, and they panic sell their entire retirement portfolio right at the bottom of the market. A spreadsheet does not hold you accountable. A spreadsheet doesn't act as an emotional circuit breaker.
That makes total sense. When you're running on empty, your emotions drive the bus.
Exactly. Furthermore, behavioral leakage is forgetting to update your life insurance beneficiaries after your second child is born. It's failing to execute that tax loss harvesting we just talked about because you were just too busy charting patient records.
Life gets in the way.
Always. The Attard method uncovers unseen tax and risk gaps, and it builds an implementable sequence so the results are actually certain. It's about actionable accountability.
Because having a philosophy is completely useless if the execution fails. You can have the best intentions in the world, but to manage this level of complexity, the disability insurance, the tax loss harvesting, the 529 college plans for the kids, the legacy documents, you just can't manage this in a shoebox.
No, you really can't.
Or on a Sunday afternoon. So how do advisors actually build this structure without making a critical error?
This is exactly why we looked at the software training frameworks in the sources. Specifically, the e-money guides used by wealth managers. The mechanics of execution are entirely reliant on modern digital integration.
Because if a wealth manager is handling the financial lives of, say, 50 different doctors, human error is completely inevitable without systemic guardrails.
Precisely. The e-money framework highlights a concept called connections and integrations. Connections create a direct real-time API link between the planning software and the actual financial institutions.
So the banks, the brokerages, the insurance companies.
Right. It pulls in live account data every single day. The framework emphasizes that the order of operations here is critical. The system has to see the entire board accurately at all times to identify overlapping risks.
Okay, so it's a centralized dashboard.
Yes. And then there are sharing rules. This dictates how an advisor safely delegates client management to other specialists within their firm, like maybe a tax attorney or an insurance broker, while maintaining strict privacy boundaries over the client's sensitive data.
I want to make a connection here for you listening because this really brings everything full circle. Think about how a modern hospital functions.
Okay, yeah.
A hospital relies entirely on integrated electronic health records, or EHRs, to prevent fatal medical errors. If a doctor prescribes a medication, but the patient's record shows an allergy to penicillin, the software instantly flags it and prevents a lethal interaction.
It's an automated safety net.
Exactly. The software sees the whole board. The caregiver's personal life relies on the exact same principle. Proper digital integrations in wealth management prevent financial errors. They catch the overlaps, they consolidate redundant accounts, and they ensure that a catastrophic mistake like, I don't know, forgetting a backdoor Roth conversion rule and triggering a massive tax penalty never happens.
It is the exact same mechanism of safety. You are taking the rigorous clinical discipline used to keep patients alive, and you are applying it to financial stewardship to keep the caregiver's family secure.
Man, that is such a powerful parallel.
It really reframes the whole concept of wealth management for medical professionals.
So we've covered a massive amount of ground today. We started with the idea of the oath for the caregiver, right? Starting from birth and youth to build that foundation.
Yes.
We explored the terrifying reality of the structural void, where doctors manage infinite patient risk, but zero personal risk. We walked through the literal fork in the road between a compounding crisis and a managed interruption.
The two paths.
The two paths. And we laid out the architecture of stability through the Attard methodology and the digital tools like e-money required to execute it flawlessly.
And if we synthesize all of this, it points to one undeniable conclusion.
Which is?
Caring for the caregiver is not an enhancement. It is not a luxury or a fun perk. It is a structural necessity for the survival of the entire healthcare system.
Absolutely. By prioritizing protection before production, healthcare professionals can transform inevitable career stressors into manageable moments. They can ensure their personal legacy is just as impactful and just as secure as their clinical legacy.
Which leaves us with a final thought, a new paradigm to consider based on everything we've unpacked today.
I'm ready. Lay it on me.
If we now know, definitively, that caregiver financial instability directly increases the risk of clinical burnout, poor medical decision-making, and professional attrition, should the industry evolve?
Okay.
What if, in the future, a hospital's federal accreditation and funding were tied not just to their patient outcomes, but to the verifiable structural, financial, and emotional support systems they actively mandate for their own staff?
Oh, wow. That is a question that could upend the entire industry. Should a hospital lose its status if it refuses to structurally protect the people saving the lives inside it?
It's definitely something to think about.
That is something to seriously mull over. But for now, for you listening, don't wait for the system to catch up to the reality. Take that oath for yourself today. Start building your structure. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.